Welcome everyone to Virtual Cabinet. My name is Ken Byrne. I'm one of the account managers here at Virtual Cabinet. As you can see, I've normally have pictures of Cambridge, but I've got a picture of the Rugby World Cup behind me today. I'm going to run you through this IRIS webinar. I am going to ask if you've got any questions, stick them in the question box. If you wouldn't mind also just sticking saying you can hear me or hi in there, otherwise it's very lonely. It feels like I'm not speaking to anyone. I will probably mention it a lot of time all the way through the webinar, but you do need to check your version of Virtual Cabinet and be on version 4.2, and that's the latest version of Virtual Cabinet. A recording will be available at the end of this, so we will send the recording. It probably won't be till next week, but we will send a recording to everyone that's got there as well. Now, there's a hell of a lot to get through, and actually it was quite a difficult subject to think about because you all know the integration within Virtual Cabinet. There's a hell of a lot of things to cover. And so what I thought I'd do is I would show you absolutely everything that works between Virtual Cabinet and IRIS. So some of the things you will be familiar with, but I think if I cover everything, that means we can't actually miss anything. So that's where we're gonna do it. I'll attempt to answer some of the questions, but if I can't, we will send them back to the account manager afterwards. So this is what I'm going to cover today. What I'd like to say, just to start with, is Virtual Cabinet is best of breed. We're completely agnostic in terms of what practice management you use. Obviously, this webinar is specifically on Virtual Cabinet and IRIS, but we do integrate with other practice management systems too. We let them do what they're good at, and we do what we're good at, which is document management. And then once you've got the document management in, how you manipulate and get those documents into Virtual Cabinet, how you share them with the client, and then also the efficiency around it. So there, as you can see on that slide, there's a lot to cover. The first four should be fairly straightforward. You should understand what they are. I'm not going to cover the portal at any great depth, but just some of the new features on it. Auto publishing is quite new. IRIS Plus integration is some of the extra bits we've done on the integration from the start, and then we'll talk about the rest of the stuff as we continue. So quite a lot to go through within a webinar. So the first bit is relatively easy. It's called intelligent indexing. You probably all know how to use it, but none of you know it's called intelligent indexing, and I'll show you here on this slide, which is quite straightforward. If you see those chevrons as you type in the client names, if you start to type in Ken Byrne, by the time you got to KEN, you will be able to Virtual Cabinet looks up IRIS, pulls back the client name and the client code as well, and that's the intelligent indexing. We use that obviously within Virtual Cabinet. We also use it for the portal integration. We use it in document creation, which I'll show you about later on. But it's also really important in things like some of the enhancements and some of the things, the extra cabinets we can do, like an X-client cabinet. So it is important that that's up and running and working, but I'll wager you all know how to use it as well. The second part is the virtual integration. So this is when you're in IRIS and you want to look at documents within Virtual Cabinet. So I recorded a quick demo from my demo IRIS system earlier on, and I'll run you through that right now. So this is IRIS. Hopefully it's all very familiar with you as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up a client to start with. So I start typing in the client name or the identifier, and that gives me the client, and I'll click on that client and open up the client. In this case, it's Linden House. So again, this, as I said, should be very familiar with you. Up here, as you can see, the client code is LIN001. The client code and client name are quite specific to us, and that's where our intelligent indexing that I showed you before works. And this is the virtual integration. So we're in IRIS, so we're looking at this client. And what I'd like to do now is actually do a search on those client documents and open up Virtual Cabinet. So what you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's a little magnifying glass or spyglass. If you click on that, what it does is it goes into Virtual Cabinet and does a search and bring back those documents that are held in that client. This is my demo system. I've only got a few documents. You've got a lot more, but there you go. You've got Virtual Cabinet open. You've got your preview pane, and you can go and manipulate and move those documents around as you would at any time as well. So that's how the virtual integration works between it. It's a lovely, quick and simple way to being in a client in IRIS. I want to look at the recent documents. You can, of course, open up Virtual Cabinet separately and do a search on that and get a bit of a richer feel. There's more things you can do, but that works really well between Virtual Cabinet and IRIS. So now, I'm really sorry, I can't spend too much time on email management, but I just wanted to put it out there to show you the sort of things we can do, and then again, just to give you a flavor of what the newer stuff is, and then you can make a decision or come back to your account manager and talk to them. So we have automatic email capture. When we sold virtual cabinets some time ago, people loved the automatic email capture bit. It was quite a unique selling point for us, and it still works to this day, and lots of people still use it. So what we do is we look at the email address that comes into your Outlook email account or Office 365. It works the same. We look at that email address and we compare it to the email contained within ours. If they match up, we go, great, we know who that client is, and we save that document against the specific client code, client name, client code. Or as you write your email address, you put the client code in square brackets in the subject line. As you said that when the client replies, we look at the client code within the square brackets, compare it with ours, know who the client is, and also automatically index that document. People love that system because it's completely automated, which means once you get it up and set up and running, you send emails out the whole time and they all get back and saved in automatically. It does have its limitations. So if you have a client with 5 different businesses with you, where do you save the email? Do you save it against all the 5 businesses or not save it and then manually index it in as well? So over time, we've built another suite within email capture, and that is a semi-automatic system. The semi-automatic system uses the add-in for Outlook. So I had a lot of questions coming in as well. Thanks very much for that. I'll keep reviewing them. Most of the stuff I cover as I get through the webinar. So the semi-automated email capture relies on the indexing pane in Outlook. One of the things you can do, and a lot of people don't know that, you can autofill certain of the index fields already. So for instance, if you always save your emails under correspondence, you can default to that. If you always use today's date, you can default to that. If you take the subject line of the email, put it in the description, you can default to that as well. All editable, all changeable, but at least it saves time, so you just have to put in the client name, client code. We then have conversation rules. What that means is if you start an email to a client, you tick the conversation rule box. When you send the email to the client, when they reply, that email will be automatically saved. So you just save the first email basically in a string, and all the subsequent emails are saved after that. And the final bit is email suggestions. And this is why I'm saying you really need to get on the latest version of Virtual Cabinet, because the email suggestions, I can't remember where they came in, but they are in the later versions. What email suggestions means is Virtual Cabinet learns where you typically save emails. And then gives you a suggestion of where you might want to save an email. So I run through all those in an actual email. This is a spam email that I use for my demos. And as you can see here on the right hand side, this email has been saved and it tells me where it's been saved. If you click on any of these links, so if you click on this camera distribution, it will bring you directly into that file and you can see all the documents on there. Very much like I showed you coming from Iris, you can do the same from Outlook. Or if I click on the actual subject line, it will bring me all the emails in that subject line that you can see as well. You see at the bottom, there's conversation rules running. So if myself and Brian are swapping emails and then our subject moves off to the Rugby World Cup, for instance, I can untick the conversation rule box and then stop those emails being saved into Virtual Cabinet. If he suddenly writes back and says, oh, what about this other business? You can tick the box again, re-index the email and start off the thread again. So you have that flexibility to save what you need to save automatically once you start it off, but also then the flexibility to stop saving emails if they're not relevant. And then right at the bottom, you've got email suggestions. So if Brian here had 3 companies with me, Cameron Distribution, ABC Limited, and Ace Concrete, Virtual Cabinet learns how you save those emails and puts them in the most popular order, so the least popular order as well. If I click on one of these buttons, all these index fields will be filled out automatically. So again, it's one click to save email. So as you start to use the system more and more, it becomes more smarter the more you use it. The final bit that you should all be familiar with, which is document capture. This does 2 things from within Iris. One is if you create a document in Iris, like an Iris Open Docs or whatever, we can automatically save that into Virtual Cabinet because you know where it comes from with the indexing pane. So the CC print example below basically tells you that this document comes from this location and I want to save it in against the client. Also, any forms generated in Iris can also be saved in Virtual Cabinet. And you're all quite familiar with when HMRC changes some of the forms or the formats of the forms, you then the forms stop being saved and you have to contact support for us to rejig CC form to be saved again. So those top 4 lines in my in the start of the presentation in the webinar are basically cover those first 4 things, and they should all be relatively familiar to you. They're all part of the IRIS integration. So when I started thinking about this webinar, I was thinking, it can't be just me talking all day. So I decided to speak to one of our clients, his pictures there is Paul Miller from Cornish Accounting down in Cornwall. And I asked Paul just to give us a warts and all view of his story around Virtual Cabinet. So I'm going to play that now, and it's just interesting to hear from an independent person's point of view, their thoughts on Virtual Cabinet and what they've done. Let me just start that for you now.
Yeah, so my name's Paul Miller from Cornish Accounting. I've been in the accountancy profession since 1983. I'm not one of these people since age of 6 always wanted to do maths and have a job with maths. I just sort of drifted into it, and I've been here ever since. And my journey, I guess, is like a lot of accountants in that you pass your exams, you then think there's a better way to do it, and you think, I'll do it myself, so you actually start it yourself. And when you actually start your first firm, you use a lot of the systems and processes that your previous employer uses, and as time goes on, you evolve it. And I think the thing for all of us is we don't necessarily stand back and look at what we've got and how we could use it better. So we're all told that paperless is the way forward and that we need to be not handling the paper so much, and therefore we look at systems and processes to enable us to do that. So we've been in Virtual Cabinet now for probably about 7 years, and the problem that we've got is that we're a legacy practice in that we have a lot of old clients. So on some of our clients, if we were to store the papers on files, we'd literally have, half a dozen files on everybody. So we looked at a way of actually saving that information and storing that in a better way. And what we love about VC is that VC, once you put the email address in for the client, automatically all the emails to and from that client get logged in that client folder. Because I guess we've all looked around for that email that we thought we had on such and such a day, and we can't quite remember what it was and what it was about. But the beauty about Virtual Cabinet VC is that will actually store it for you. So the integration with IRIS works extremely well in that when we send a set of accounts out to someone, it will save those accounts, tax returns, business tax comps, etc., as PDFs in that client's folder. And providing you set the system up well so that you can actually have a folder system with files that save certain items. So you'd have all your accounts together, all your tax returns together, all your tax comps together, or your correspondence together. The idea is that it makes it easier to try and find things on the system and store it in a way. And the beauty about it is that it's regularly updated, it's up-to-date current information. It enables you to find things relatively quicker than you could in the old days when you're looking through files and combing through papers.
Well, thanks. I'd like to thank Paul for that. As I said, it was interesting just to have a different view on people's journey within Virtual Cabinet. The last bit I want to talk about, sorry, the last bit on the first bit, so I didn't say that right, but never mind. I want to talk about the portal. So a lot of you out there are using our portal at the moment. So you've got a Virtual Cabinet environment where you can save your documents, and when you want to share them with a client, you've got a secure way of doing so. So the portal's designed obviously to do that, and obviously to get electronic signature as well if you want from the client, and also for the client to share documents back with you as well. So that's what the portal does, along with lots of other cool stuff. There are some new features on it that you may have missed, etc. And again, I'm sorry to keep going about it, you have to be on 4.2 to take full advantage of all those things, including messaging, which I'll talk about in a minute. So there's an auto retract function within Virtual Cabinet. So that's a global setting that you can set as an admin and say, when we publish documents, they will stay up there for 6 months, a year, whatever you choose. So if you think about it, you've got Virtual Cabinet, you're taking a copy of the document, you're publishing it to the portal, and you're saying, how long do I want to keep that document there? You can also set it so that an individual user, when they're publishing, can override that system. So for instance, if I'm sending a document to the client wants to sign it straight away and doesn't really need to see it again, I might change that 6 months to 2 weeks. Alternatively, if it's a tax return or something like that, I might actually put it up for 1 year or 2 years, changing that standard 6 months. There's also a group publishing function, which kind of is hidden actually, because you might know it's there. So as you go to normally you grab some documents, you go to publish them via the portal, you put in a client name and off you go. If you put in a second client name, so if you had a husband and wife, or if you had a group of 3 directors, for instance, if you put their email addresses in that box at the top, you can then actually group publish, and it will give you an option. It will say, do you want to send, let's say the document to set up company accounts for signature. It'll say, do you want to send this document individually to these 3 people? So you'll get 3 sets of accounts back, all signed individually by them. Or do you want to send it as a group which means you'll get the document back when the last person signed it, and we have 3 signatures at the bottom on one document. So that group publishing is built into the portal as well. Go and have a play with it as well. Messaging is quite new. As I said, you have to be on version 4.2. What messaging allows you to do is if you publish a document to the client logs into the portal, looks at it, and has a query on it, they can now, within the secure environment of the portal, send you a message back via the portal, and you can message back and forward between them. All done within the secure area of Virtual Cabinet and the portal, and that's there in 4.2. Thanks for your questions. One popped in already, and I'll answer it now. When you retract that document, all the conversation and everything you've had, that messaging within the portal, is saved in the audit trail of the document. So that's all secure and is kept forever, but you have to in 4.2 to be able to take advantage of all that. And the next slide talks about auto publishing, which is a way of taking all your multiple documents and indexing them into Virtual Cabinet automatically and publishing them via the portal, all automatically, basically done with one click. But I've got a next slide on that as well. And the last thing I want to talk about the portal was multiple branding. So again, if you're an accountancy practice, you may have an insolvency side, you may have a bookkeeping side, you may have a financial services side, whatever, and each of those may have a different brand. They would be even different companies. If you're all using the same Virtual Cabinet, coming soon you should be able to publish those depending on what brand you want to publish them under, and that's should be here towards the end of the year. Like I said, lots of questions popping in, and I can't spend too much time on these, but I have done separate webinars on email capture and on the portal, and the link is down there as well, and we can send that to you later on. There we go. So there is auto publishing via the portal. So this is an extra module that we can put into your Virtual Cabinet environment that allows you to publish lots of documents via the portal. So for instance, if you've got one single document, like a general reminder that you want to send to every single your client saying, hey, it's tax return season, and I want to remind you to get your tax stuff to us. You can do that, and you can publish that to the portal. So you can just publish to one person, you can publish to 1,000 people. Also, if you do some kind of mail merge or something like that, and you've got similar documents, but you want to send them to individual people, we can do that too. So if you've got an age of memoir letter, but you've done a mail merge, so you've got some individual information on each one of those, and if you had, let's say, 1,000 letters, you can easily take those 1,000 letters, index them all into Virtual Cabinet one by one, and publish them to the client, and add a note to it, and request a signature if you wanted to do all that as well. So all of that is possible within the portal. There are some limitations, so you do need to speak to your account manager how to do it, and we do have to get onto your system and actually build that for you and understand how you want to do it. I do have a demo with this, and if you do want to see a demo right at the very end, I can actually show it to you. It's probably the most uninteresting demo ever, because I just take a document, drop it in a place, but in the background what happens is that document is saved into Virtual Cabinet and is published via the portal, etc. So that's good, and that's there and available as well. If you're interested in that, just stick in auto publish or something in the questions, and the account manager will get back to you for that as well. Okay, thank you. Someone's asked about when will editable forms. So someone paid attention to one of my previous webinars where we talked about portal and future development. And one of the things that is on our future pipeline of development within the portal is to be able to do two things. One is what we're calling wet signatures, which will allow people to put signatures on a screen, capture signature via text, by typing text and turning into a signature, and all those other kind of nice bits to have, along with the secure email signature that we have already in the portal. That is something on our pipeline. When we'll do it, I'm not sure. The other thing was editable forms, i.e. we can send a form to a client and say, please fill in this via the portal. The client can fill it in on the portal, and we can save and capture that as a document within VC. They are all within our kind of a range of things we could do in the portal, but when we're going to do them, I'm not sure. But thanks for the question. So this is now what I'm calling Iris Integration Plus. Now, for some of you, you will have this, you go, why are you telling me this? But I know for some we don't. So just to give you a little bit of history on this, I don't know when we did our first Iris integration, but since then we're always developing, we're always getting client feedback saying it'd be nice to be able to do this, it'd be nice to be able to do that, and we're building more and more into our Iris integration. As a result, some people, when we set them up 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago, we weren't able to do all this, or we didn't suggest it to them, etc. So it's not set in your system. If that's the case, let us come back to you. and we will come and discuss it with you and see if that works for you as well. And actually, I thought of an analogy one of my colleagues mentioned to me as well, and they said, because one of my clients said, well, why don't we have everything now? And it's a bit like if you buy a car today and you buy some optional extras on it, and when they release the model in 2 years' time, the model of the optional extras that you just paid for are now free within the car. And that's just the way it goes. We're just building more and more stuff into it as well. But we can, as an optional extra, I guess, get these into your system. So you probably had to read them as well, but client rename I mentioned already. So if you change a name in Iris, it's automatically reflected in Virtual Cabinet. So someone gets married, divorced, a company goes to change it to limited, and you change it in Iris, and all the documents within Virtual Cabinet are now re-indexed to that new name, etc. So everything matches perfectly. Now I know you can do it manually, but that means you have to go into Virtual Cabinet each time, highlight all the documents, re-index them, etc. If you forget to do it, then the documents aren't matching as well. The other thing we do, a lot of people requested for this actually, is make an ex-client cabinet. So any client, and in Irish you ZZ the client, you mark them as ZZ on the client code, and we take all those documents and boot them into your ex-client cabinet. So it saves all your searching. There's no ex-clients in there. And also, we can now start to apply your document retention policy to those ex-clients. So we have a document retention policy within Virtual Cabinet. I do talk about it a little bit later on, but basically it destroys the documents once they reach a certain age. So I know we're accountants at 7 years, so if you've got an ex-client, you've got documents over 7 years, we can actually take those documents and we can automatically destroy them once they hit 7 years old. I'm just going to say now, the destroy function destroys the document, all previous versions of the document, the audit trail, and it removes it from your server. So if you're in a hosted environment as well, destroy function is very useful because it actually saves you storage space. But destroy means destroy, and the document is not recoverable as well. The other thing we get from our clients is we create a prospect cabinet. Now, the prospect cabinet is kind of a manual thing. You'd manually put the name into the back of the index of the admin side of Virtual Cabinet. But what it allows you to do is, if you're speaking to a new client and they give you some documents and say, you know, here's some of my documents, I'd like you to represent me, what do you do with them? Do you go to the trouble of setting them on Iris and doing all the kind of stuff when they're not really a client? Some people do, and that's fine if you do. Some people don't. Well, why not put them into your prospect cabinet? And then after a period of time, if you go, right, yes, we are going to represent you, you go to the trouble of setting them up in Iris, you start to do all your anti-money laundering and all your checks to make sure that you can all your ducks are in a row as such, and then you can manually re-index them up to the new client code in Iris. The great thing about the prospect cabinet is, if they're not manually re-indexed, at a certain point in the future, you can apply a document retention policy to it and say, after 9 months or after a year, if we're not representing them, then we should destroy those documents because we're not representing that client, and therefore we shouldn't be holding them. So that's some of the Iris integration plus, as I called it there, of things you do, and I can see some people are interested, which is great. Now, if you use Iris Open Docs, you won't be interested in this. If you don't use Iris Open Docs, you might be. But I just want to say there's a document creation package available within Virtual Cabinet. And what it does, allows you to store templates within Virtual Cabinet. As you open the template, it prompts you to look at index fields, typically client name, client code, salutation, address, those kind of things. We can grab that from Iris, and then we can auto-populate that document, all done within the VC environment. The advantage of this is that document is saved in Virtual Cabinet. You've got version control on it. You can start a task in it and send it to a manager or someone and say, hey, can you please check this, etc. It's all contained within the VC environment. And as you edit it, become version 2, version 3, and so on. And that works totally within Virtual Cabinet. The other beauty of that is it doesn't need to be specific. It can be any document within your organization. It doesn't have to be specifically a document that's relating to a tax return or whatever. It could be just a general letter to someone else. You can do it within there. So again, I just want to make you aware of that. If you use Iris Open Docs, you probably won't want to use that. But if you're doing other things outside Iris, or if people are just got templates on their desktop or wherever, and they're writing a letter and looking up Iris and manually typing in the names and addresses, you'd be much better off using that document creation. So I just wanted to show you that was available as well. So this is the Virtual Cabinet Go, so our mobile app. So our mobile app is focused on giving you access to Virtual Cabinet when you're out of the office, on the go, when you're mobile. So it works on Android devices, iOS devices like your iPhone or your iPad, and a Windows version is coming for things like your laptop or your Surface Pro. So it allows you to access Virtual Cabinet really easily. I'll answer the questions when they come back in a second. Sorry, there's quite a few popped in. So it allows you to access Virtual Cabinet really easy when you're out of the office. I have done a webinar on this as well. There are quite a few developments that have happened already on it. But basically it allows you to look at your in tray, and now it looks at other people's in trays, group in trays, and it also allows you obviously to search on documents within Virtual Cabinet. So if you're sat with a client or on the way to a client, so almost check the address, you can go into VC and just see the latest letter you sent to them. Or if you're sat with a client, they said, oh, can you show me that? You quickly open up your iPad and within seconds jump into Virtual Cabinet. It doesn't and will never give you the full rich experience of using Virtual Cabinet directly, where you want to edit a document and all that kind of stuff, but it allows you on the go to grab documents quite quickly. What is coming on the app, we're still developing it now, is tasks and task approval. So if you use tasks within your Virtual Cabinet environment, the app will be really powerful to be able to, on the go, if someone sends you a task, be able to review a document, approve it, reject it, send it on to someone else as well, okay? There are quite a few questions that popped in. I'm going to kind of try and leave them till the end, and I will run back to the questions as well and cover some of the points as well. There's one coming from the previous one, so I'm just going to jump back a slide. I always hate 2 slides. I always hate doing that. The prospect cabinet is not something that you will have now. It's not something as our standard setup because not everybody wants it, and we don't want to kind of dump stuff into Virtual Cabinet that people don't want because it clutters things up. But if you want it, again, talk to your account manager. We can set that up for you now as well, and then you can start to use it. As I said, it's just a nice way to be able to store documents for clients, and it's also a good way to be able to manage those documents in terms of their life cycle. The mobile app also has a webinar attached to it as well, so you can go and view that as well. I know some of the clients on here are already using the app, and I'm hearing good things about it. Okay, so I'd set myself a challenge of half an hour, so I'm not too far behind as well. We also have, this is my other section, I couldn't think of anything else to talk about it. We have the document retention, which I talked about, which is a subscription service, but it allows you to go across anywhere within Virtual Cabinet and any index and say, I want these documents moved as well. And if you look at the VC enhancements that I have below, this can be used very successfully with the document retention policy. So the VC enhancements are basically, we have an active archive or a semi-archive cabinet. So we take documents maybe 2 years or 3 years old and put them into a semi-archive cabinet. Why we do this, I should say, is because if you're doing a search, you typically want to see this year's documents and last year's documents, current tax year, last tax year, and you don't want to see the rest of them. So on your day-to-day searching, that gives you a much nicer, neater search within Virtual Cabinet. And then if you want to see something older, you go to your semi-archive cabinet. We can also take all documents that are 7 years old, or any age, by the way, but over 7 years old, and put them into an archive cabinet. There's a couple of other things you can do behind the scenes on this, which means you can put your archive cabinet on a slow old disk because you'll be going into it very, very rarely, and then your main super duper fast disk for your active cabinet makes the PC run a little bit faster, a little bit nicer. And also, when you build these in, we can now apply document retention policies to your archive cabinet. So all documents over 7 years old, etc., we can then go and destroy automatically. Now, I know a lot of people come and say, oh, they don't destroy documents, and I totally understand that. And I think the enhancement is the first step in ordering and sorting your documents into a correct order. I will say now, a lot of clients said to me, oh, let's create an archive cabinet for documents over 7 years old, and I'll review them regularly with whoever, and we'll destroy them. That never ever happens, by the way. People are too busy. When you go to have a look at it after running for a quarter or the first time it runs, and it's got tens of thousands of documents in there, you can't go and review every single one and see which one's going to be destroyed or not. But it is the first step in kind of understanding that. And yes, the question is coming in. Yes, you can exclude documents. So if you have a index profile like permanent or a subsection like permanent, we can say, move all the documents into to be destroyed archive cabinet, whatever you want to call it, 7 years old, but let's keep the permanent documents where they are. So as long as you've got a belief in your structure that you've used in Virtual Cabinet, then everything else works really well as well. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I'm sorry, there's too many questions around it. Again, a bugbear of mine is virtual cabinet as a full business solution. So I go to clients, they're using virtual cabinet really well, and they've got tasks running, everyone can find documents in virtual cabinet, and then when I talk to them about something else, they go, oh, we saved on the S drive or the B drive or the Q drive or whatever. And I say to them, why not create a cabinet within virtual cabinet, a separate one, and why not have it, for instance, a director's cabinet, so the directors, the partners can share documents around each other in a secure way, so nobody else can see them. Similar for a HR cabinet, if you've just got a place you dump on the server. In fact, you might have two HR cabinets. You might have an open HR cabinet where you keep your holiday form, you keep your staff handbook and that kind of stuff, and a closed HR cabinet with each individual person's CV and salary remuneration and all that kind of stuff closed as well. All done within virtual cabinet, all done securely. And again, if someone goes to leave, you can then go and destroy all those documents, or if you, whatever long you need to keep them, etc., etc. All done within virtual cabinet. And then I've got a company's file cabinet as well. So just for general stuff, for your bills, for your general running of the business, keep them in there. Why? Because you know something, you put them on a server and you just fill up loads of space, and you realize there's documents there going back to 1998 or whatever. Put them in virtual cabinet, apply a document retention policy and say we only need to keep them for 2 years or whatever, and after that those documents get destroyed automatically. And the same for things like invoicing. So at the end of the day, no matter what any of us do, right at the end of the month, whatever, we send out an invoice to our clients, like we send out an invoice to you to be paid. Again, where do you store them? Where do you save them? Some people save them within virtual cabinet against the clients. Some people save them somewhere separately. Again, like a cabinet, save them there as well. So those kind of other things around virtual cabinet, I love when people start to use it to its full extent as well. I've mentioned tasks a few times. Task is still available within virtual cabinet. When task comes into the app, I really see it taking off, because people have then the ability to see a task anywhere, and all tasks do are a way of tracking processes within your organization, giving visibility to managers of who's doing what process, and in an audit trail, be able to say who did what, when, and why, with reasons behind it as well. Also, I want to mention multiple integrations. So some of the larger clients have an accountancy arm, have a financial services arm, have an insolvency arm, whatever. I mentioned a little bit about this when we talked about multiple branding on the portal, and we also support multiple integrations. So for instance, if you're using Iris, obviously for your accountancy side, and you're using, I don't know, IPS for your insolvency side, which is another practice management system, and we can integrate that too. So if you are using other bits of software that create document or that whole client information, come and talk to us and say, can you integrate with them? Can we get the documents easily into virtual cabinet? Can we match the client names, client codes, and all the kind of stuff that we do with Iris as well? So again, you're not saving documents in another place. And right at the start, I said we're virtual cabinet, we're best of breed. We should be the one place in your organization that you go to find any document. Okay, and if we are the one place in your organization you go to find any document, you're not repeatedly saving it in different places. That means you're working efficiently, and that means your document retention policies around GDPR can all be effectively enacted. So also having multiple integrations, so you save documents within virtual cabinet easily, all helps with the efficiency that you're looking for your organization and from our software. And the documents from other sources leads on to those multiple integrations. If you have another program or another system and you're creating documents, it's creating stuff that you need to file away, quick rule of thumb, if someone does it 5 times a day, not worth automating or looking at an integration. But if everyone does it 5 times a day and there's 20 people in your organization, then it's worth coming to us and saying, is there a way to get these documents in automatically into virtual cabinet? We might be able to do it, not, but just please come and talk to us. So let's go to the next slide actually first. So the second bits I have from Paul are all really about shiny objectitis is what he calls it, which means there's something new, there's something cool, can I have a look at it? And when I said I asked Paul to be honest with us, he is totally honest, and he did actually review leaving virtual cabinet and going to a different system probably early last year. He mentions this in this, and as I said, I asked him to be warts and all type person, so he will. So let me just play that for you now.
I think a lot of people will identify with me that I've got shiny objectitis, in that I see a new product and I think, oh, that's going to save the world, that's going to save me time and save me money. And to be honest with you, we have looked at alternatives to virtual cabinets and we have sort of flirted with them, but we've always come back to virtual cabinet for the fact that its security, its cost, and its ability to integrate with what we're using. And the benefits of using Virtual Cabinet is, should we change one of our main programs, we can still use Virtual Cabinet. With that, we don't have to change everything overnight, because I think all of us spend a lot of time in actually changing programs and changing systems, but we probably need to do more with what we've got. I guess Virtual Cabinet is a bit like the iceberg effect, as we know what's above the water, what it can do, but it will actually do loads of other things. And I would hope that by speaking to your Virtual Cabinet account manager, they can actually help you address some of the issues that you've got, some of the systems and processes that are already inbuilt into Virtual Cabinet.
Well, thanks, Paul, for that. I should say this, I should say that the first one, I really appreciate a client taking a little bit of time to just come and talk to us and say how things are within Virtual Cabinet. Funny enough, we did have a video on that as well, but the video didn't record for some reason, but we did get the audio. I'm going to the last slide, second last slide or whatever now, but I will cover, while that was going on, I read a few of the questions, so I will cover a few of the questions that came up while I did it. So this was my last slide, was really just to say, have I covered everything? Did I cover everything that worked through as well? And thank you very much for all your questions. Email capture. So if you're using the first method I showed you in email capture and you're interested in the second method, there should be no real cost to switch over between them, but you can only have one or the other. You can't have a mix of both. You either got a full automatic system or the semi-automatic system. There's no way to do both. So thanks for that question. On the document retention policy, yeah, so what the question really is, do you have to have those cabinets? Can you do something you can mix and match completely and utterly on the document retention policy? Basically, if you look at any index or any indices that's available in Virtual Cabinet, you can apply a document retention policy to it. So for instance, probably the most obvious, if you've got documents that are marked permanent and you never want to get rid of them, you can say, I want you to take all documents with it under this subsection or under this index, but not the ones that are marked permanent, and we can do that as well. And another little tip on that is, when we go to clients and we say, there's two things to do with document retention. Let's tidy up your Virtual Cabinet and put all the relevant bits in the relevant places, like ex-client cabinet and over 7-year-old documents and all that kind of stuff. People go, yeah, that's fine. I don't need the retention policy turned on, because what I'll do is I'll review those documents from time to time and we'll get rid of them. It never happens. So what will happen over the course of time, especially for those who've been with us a long time, you'll look at that cabinet, that 7-year plus cabinet, and sooner or later there'll be 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 documents within that cabinet. Who's going to go through and say, are they all the right ones to be destroyed? So at some point you can actually bite the bullet and hit destroy. You don't need to as well, by the way. You don't have to as well. But if, again, things like ex-client cabinet, absolutely, I think you shouldn't be holding those documents longer than 7 years. So again, the point I was trying to make is you can mix and match all those things. If there's a question on document creation and a question on auto publishing, no, they are not standard within the product. You need to come and talk to us. On document creation, we need to set it up and do a bit of training and show you how to get the templates in. We typically do 2 or 3 templates so you understand how to do it yourself, and you go off and do the rest yourself. On auto publishing, we really need to understand what you want to publish, what typical things you want to do, because we have about 3 different methods to be able to publish those things automatically. So that's taking a whole lot of documents, indexing them into Virtual Cabinet automatically, and publishing them to the portal, all done automatically, all done with 1 click as well. So you need to come and talk to us, and we can understand what you want, and then we can apply that solution to you. I think that was all the questions we had. This slide is almost like a standard slide within Virtual Cabinet, etc. But the whole thing is, as I said, we're best of breed. We start at the start to get your documents in some order, move you away as much as possible from paper, and we'll help you with that journey to get as paperless as possible. And then a lot of things flow from that. It's easier to find documents. You've got better visibility across the organization. You don't have paper and paper storage costs. You don't have all those files and all that kind of stuff. But once you've got to that point, the next point that's working behind all the time is efficiency. And we're trying to work on your efficiency and trying to help you save as much time as possible, make things as smooth and as easy as possible. And that's what we've built in all those extra modules within Virtual Cabinet to be able to assist you. Okay, that's it. I knew it was going to be a long webinar. There should really only be 20 minutes, but it's taken 40 minutes to get through the whole Iris integration webinar. I'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you very much for your questions. Just to reiterate, we will send you links to the previous webinars. We will send you a recording of the webinar, and any questions I haven't answered will go to your individual account manager and they can answer them for you. Okay, thank Thanks very much for your time. I don't think there's anything else left to be done. Okay, have a great day. Bye.